How do you feel that being a non-native speaker in an English-speaking industry like technology, how has that been an advantage for you?
Sometimes I wish to be a native speaker and I would like to be a native speaker, then I wouldn't have these problems with explaining something.
Mm.
But your question made me realize that actually I have really a great advantage because
Mm.
I can find information in two languages, and there is a lot of content
Oh.
is made by Russian content makers because we have very well developed YouTube. There are a lot of journalists that made a lot of Russian speaking content, and I can consume it. And also, there are a lot of Telegram channels, and I got this, it's really good. So when I research something, I can do it in both languages. I think this is the really good advantage. And the second advantage in the tech field, because there are so many Russian speaking founders around the world, and Russian speaking community is open and quite helpful. So you can ask something and you will get um, any support from them. So there are so many community groups around the world, and like in every country, because I had been traveling for 2 years across the world, and in every country, in every city, I found Russian speaking community, and I could find any information that I need.
So cool. You know what? I hadn't thought about the exposure of the resources in another language. That's pretty neat. Okay. Yeah. And I think to add to that, another strength that I find for non native speakers is what you perceive as a language obstacle or barrier actually forces simplicity. Because sometimes where a native speaker has the language and they overcomplicate an explanation, as a non native speaker, you have to be more concise, you have to be more direct. And I think that that can be really helpful, especially when you're explaining complicated products or services, and especially with things like tech. But when it comes to, as you know, pitching and delivering, people are busy. And so the faster you can get to the value and not over explain can be really a nice advantage.
It's true. Yeah.
Oh, right. So from the positive experience to perhaps a negative, I think it's something really important to acknowledge sometimes that there could be pain in fluency or in speaking another language. Have you ever had either a negative experience from someone's reaction to your accent, or maybe a time when you felt blocked and couldn't express yourself and how you got through that moment?
I never experienced a negative reaction from native speakers, maybe because Americans and British people are very polite and they never show it. Most of them are polite. And I had the situation when I saw that the person has lost interest in talking to me.
Oh,
And but maybe it could happen even with a native speaker. It
for sure.
doesn't mean that it's all about my accent, but and that's why it's really important to understand that you can't change something, the opinion of others in their head. You should care about yourself, and especially when you talk in English, because it's still for me, I'm still nervous when I talk in English to strangers, and especially when I deliver a message to my colleagues, to clients. I mean, it's not the same as explaining something in my native language. It's different for me. So that's why I like trying to repeat myself. I can't change their minds, but I can change my like how I perceive myself.
Yes. Okay, so that's actually really, really powerful because, and I've talked about this before, choose the reality that builds your confidence. Because, like you said, it might be an accent issue that they lost interest. It could be that they're tired and had a long day. So, by
Yeah.
choosing the one that doesn't make you feel self-conscious and actually makes you improve or feel good about yourself, because if you think, oh, maybe they're tired, then you just start speaking more energetically. Whereas if you
Yeah.
choose, oh, it's my accent, you might get shy and make it worse. So I
Yeah.
love that you do that.
And actually, working with English speaking coach helped me with that because I was thinking that Russian accent is terrible. It's like if I speak with the Russian accent, people, will try to, not to talk to me because, oh, okay.
I love the
It's
Russian accent. I
yeah,
think it's so beautiful.
yeah, and people, when actual native speakers tell me that Russian accent is cute, then they got like, yeah, maybe it's true, because I think like French accent in English is cute as well, or Italian
Yeah.
one. So it's like, and it's your identity. How you, so it's you can't hide it, and why you should hide it? It's okay. If you sound quite concise and clear, and people understand you, then it's fine. And especially in cities like London, where so many cultures here, so you can hear so many accents around yourself. So like
Mhm.
people from India, China, I don't know, some Arabic
Everywhere.
countries, everywhere. And I mean, like, it's fine. And the US is like, in the most of American cities is multicultural background. So you should just, accept that. It's your identity. It's okay.
Yeah, I think clarity does not mean losing your accent. I think just being clear, like you said, communicating, but I just think accents are it just makes you so much more interesting. It sets you apart. I think it's, like you said, it can be really cute. It can be really interesting.
But many
Okay.
people try to escape this accent. They master the British accent or American one. It's good, I think, but it's I mean, it's really hard to acquire an accent, especially for a non-native speaker. But I know some people who did that. They sound really almost like native speakers. And I mean, it's fine if you have this time and energy, why not?
And it also depends on the need, because maybe
Yeah,
for some people, if it's an asset, like I've worked with actors and voiceover actors
yeah,
where the accent is a very specific part of their
yeah.
job, or it could be learning American expressions or British expressions, like things that make you connect in a way that's different. Like you said, I think it's a personal choice.
Yeah, I think the benefit of the tech industry, that it's so international industry. So it's
That's true.
like people from all around the world are involved in the tech industry, and so like native speakers do understand that, and they don't care about it.
Yeah, you work in an industry that's very open to it.
Yeah, in the UK, people are in the tech industry are very open, and they are not snobbish.
That's interesting because I've heard kind of both sides of it. Some people who have great experiences and feel very embraced, other people who face a lot of discrimination. So I think it could also be depending what kind of accent or what kind of people you're working with. Yeah, something to be mindful of, to always provide a safe space, and just you being you and being positive and being open. I think you're creating that safe space within tech.
Yeah, but I mean, you can meet assholes even in your home country.
That's
I
true.
mean, but just being confident, and that if you know that you're professional, you don't care about that.
I love your confidence. Speaking of, something that I've always been so impressed by you is that whether you feel fear or not, you just try so many things, and you do like not just trying little things. You've done like major conferences. You've talked to really big people in the field. You've done projects in everything from finance to what was the thing that you were working on with it was like digital clothing.
Yeah, so yeah, AI generated avatars. Yeah, so like digital humans,
Like
digital humans.
so cool. So tell me a little bit about how do you have a process of like building the confidence to try these things that typically require English, or is it just part of your nature to seek challenges?
It's true. It's part of my nature to seek challenges, because I think like when you start something new, there are so many undiscovered opportunities
Mm.
that make me excited. But it doesn't mean that I don't have any fear. I do have. With the years, I have more fear.
Really?
Yeah, I think like before turning 30, I was more brave. And like
Oh,
with the years, I maybe have less confidence, but every time I ask myself, like, okay, what do I lose if I just try? That's it. And what do I lose if I stay at the same place? and
Ooh.
this helps me to make a decision. But I mean, like every new opportunity means for me is there is something for me, universe brings something for me, then I should try it, just say yes to it. And sometimes it's not like a pleasant experience. For example, when I worked for a corporation, it was a really bad experience for me, in but I can say bad, it was because I prefer not to judge bad or good. It was then it means that that the experience I was needed, and
Oh,
that actually helped me to realize some things about myself, and it helped me to change myself, and it helped me to change like to understand something about self-love, and to build, you know, this to build borders, like between you and your boss, between you and your colleagues. And it's that's all we get in this life is for something. We get lessons. That's it. So that's is if it's something new, then okay, it's a new experience. It's a new lesson. Yeah, let's try it.
I like that. So, to recap for anyone listening where this resonates, the methodology is ask yourself, what do I lose if I don't try it? What would I lose if I do try it?
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And I love the perspective. Like, nothing's really that bad so much as you learn a lot, whether about what you want or I agree with you. Sometimes I've had experiences where I learned so much about what I didn't know I did not want.
Yeah.
And that can really help refine like your goals and your next steps.
Yeah, actually it's really great lesson to understand what you don't want anymore.
Yes.
Then
That
you
that's
can
sometimes the best lesson.
yeah, it's true.
You learn more about yourself, I find, and it just the boundaries that sets. That you're like, I am not doing this again. I'm not going to allow this. And then the people that you attract in your life after, the work opportunities you attract by knowing that are even better.
Yeah, my experience confirmed this theory.
Yeah. What is something that you have learned that you is important that you don't want in your life?
I definitely don't want toxic relationship in my life, even like a personal relationship with your partner, or even with your colleagues or boss. Because at the same time, I was in the toxic relationship, like in my personal life and at my job.
It's a lot.
And this was all about self-love. And when I realized that, with help of psychotherapists, that helped me to break this relationship and feel free. And my life has changed. This was a lesson. Okay, what feel the difference?
For you because a lot of people don't break they might acknowledge that they're in a toxic situation but they aren't able to change it,
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
true.
huge you were able to.
Yeah, but when I started working for this company, I was really surprised by people that I thought like maybe it's something wrong with them, maybe it's not true, because they were so good to me. You know, this is like when people treated you very badly, then the normal that
You were
you
like, are
don't
they really
understand.
this nice?
Yeah, others they're really nice because maybe they have something like behind their back. You know, you like it was really tricky. It's the same like in the relationship. When I started dating my boyfriend, I thought like, okay, maybe it's just because we just started and then he will change.
And years later he's still a nice guy.
Yeah, he's still a nice guy. That's the same. When I started working for this company, people like everyone, almost, we have a small team, and almost everyone wrote to me like, "Oh, we are so happy that you have joined us," and it
Oh,
was
that
so
feels
nice.
good.
Yeah, and like, "Oh, we've been waiting for you." I mean, like, really? Are they joking?
You're like,
But
what
no, it was
positivity?
yeah, but it's the difference because the founders, they build the different culture. It's the core, because they say if you build a community, you should like build your own community as well, like internal community, because what is inside is
Mm.
outside. So, and that's why they pay a lot of attention to the inner culture.
That's pretty cool. And speaking of your current work, tell me a little bit about what you're doing in this role and how important communication is for building community.
I never have worked as a community manager before, and I never thought that I would. I thought it's not about me. So I thought I'm about more serious job, like, the business
Interesting.
development manager, product development manager. But most of the time it was quite boring for me. It was just a job,
Mhm.
but not really entertaining. And
Hmm.
when I do this job, it feels different for me, and I feel that I'm good at it. That's surprising. So I don't feel like I have to do it just to earn money. No, I feel like I'm really enjoying it. And at the head of community, I should build this atmosphere where members of our community can easily communicate between each other. And the difference, it depends on audience, and our
Hmm.
audience is not like typical one, because if you build community of students, they are usually quite open. But I built community for angel investors, the people who are
Mm.
rich,
Hmm.
successful, and they have clear boundaries. And from one hand, they want to be in touch with their peers, like the people the same level, and exchange some professional experience, share some deals. But from the other hand, they're quite closed, and these people from all around the world, they have different cultural background. And so this is also makes my job harder. How to how to bring them together and build these horizontal connections, because
So interesting.
this
And
should be
am I
something
assuming,
natural. Yeah.
sorry for interrupting. Am I assuming correctly that the communities are mostly English speaking because they're international?
Our community is English speaking, but in the bands, I mean, some people build Russian speaking communities, for example, Russian speaking community for startup founders. So it can be different. Yeah.
So how do you help? Because I think that's fascinating because you're right. It's such a unique personality, the level that they're at where they want the connection, but they also have boundaries on their time because of the level of success where they are. How do you either select them or how do you facilitate this community, this connection for them?
It takes time actually to build these horizontal connections. People should feel that this community is safe
Mm,
place, so they can trust each other, especially people of this kind of level when they have reputation, money. So it's important to build this trust to us as a community organizers, and also to each other. And it takes time. And one of the things is to organizing events for them, and facilitate communications between them. But I mean, I do understand it's like long-term strategy, and it's about some uneven things that you like do small steps and then magic happens.
oh, so being patient. It's like a relationship, right? You have to be consistent, you have to build trust, communicate clearly, have transparency. So much of the work that you do, I think also mimics the values of communication where consistency and
Yeah.
transparency are so important.
And it's all about actually communication. How do you communicate all your messages? How you show that you are open to anything. You
Hmm.
show it's also about the tone, like the tone of language that
Mhm.
you have. There are so many tiny things that create all this ambience. And even during offline event, it's all about ambience, the sound, the comfort, atmosphere, like everything influences on this outcome. So that's why it's challenging, but it's really great challenge to help people to know better each other, and to become, I don't know how to say, maybe to become really good friends.
Yeah. Or
So
make connections, like
make
genuine
connections.
connections, right? Like deeper
Yeah.
connections.
And these people, they have a great influence on this world. So they invest in startups. And so if you help them, you help like something, so something
Bigger.
bigger can, yeah, something bigger can happen. And so if you bring them together, maybe then can create something even greater.
I love that. Yes. I think that's the fascinating part of working with leaders and working with people who have influence, because with that one connection, the trickle effect of how many other people benefit from that relationship, from that opportunity, is just a beautiful way to make an impact while we're on the earth.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
true.
and a lot of it, what you were saying about the ambiance is really interesting to me, because I feel like that's another strength as a non-native speaker. Non-native speakers have to think about what I consider the ambiance. It's not just the words you say, it's the tone, it's the facial
Hmm.
expression, it's the body language, it's how you
Yeah.
present yourself. And so by understanding how much all of that impacts, I think you also become more sensitive, more attuned to how to create safe spaces for that kind of connection.
Yeah, I heard an interview with an actor who explained that every actor should feel the space. So
Mhm.
when they start working, they feel like the physical space, then they feel like an even space, like the energy around them. Because
Mhm.
if they feel it, they can manage it, and they can be more
Oh.
confident, and they can manage the audience. And this is the same, I think, like when you organize event, you feel like energy of
Mhm.
people and you can adjust something, okay, but it's something like you can't touch. This is like really that you can't explain it in on physical level,
You feel it.
but yeah, you feel it, psychological, emotional thing.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning it. And this is about actually to be very cautious, like to and that's why it's good to be a non-native speaker, because when you are not, you're listening more because you can't talk a lot.
Yeah. Oh, wait, that's interesting. You naturally are a better or more active listener.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Actually, it's true, and it's interesting to listen to a native speaker, because sometimes I do copying in my head, like,
Mhm.
oh, it's interesting, like phrase, or like, oh, this melody, I like it, and sometimes I'm staying in the queue and just okay repeating some words after people in front of me, like, okay, that's a nice phrase, or just like some people passing me on the street and like, oh. And I don't remember the next day, but I think it's like every time I'm repeating, and it's like I'm getting used to it. I'm like remembering that. That's why it's important if you want to know language. It's better to live in English speaking country, because you get used to language because it's around you.
Especially a city like London. I feel like you're surrounded by so many different types of English, whether it's socioeconomic, geographical, whether it's an accent from within the UK or from the world. That must be really, for especially for your personality, really energizing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like it.
sometimes when I hear some people, British native speakers, and I can't understand them, and I do understand, like, okay, I need to learn more. I need to get used, especially to like to Cockney accent, because they swallow, vowels, like, hey, man,
Mhm. And you're like, what?
what? Can you repeat, please?
But again, here's where something that I admire of you and that I want other people to absorb. It's choosing curiosity over shame. And you could have just
Yeah,
as easily said, oh, my English isn't good enough. I can't even understand what he's saying. And instead, you're like, oh, I don't understand it. I get to learn more. Or, oh, I need to find someone who speaks like him so I can like get my ear used to it. So choosing
yeah.
curiosity is always the better choice from in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, and not to blame yourself, because
Yes.
I'm kind of person who like to be perfect. This is
You
like
know.
no,
Yeah.
no, the part of Russian people got this from our education system, that
Oh.
this is like about punishment. I think not about even to be perfect. It's about like you're afraid to be punished. So
Oh, that's
because like
fascinating.
Russian schools are
Mhm.
different, and that's why when you feel that you fail, like you're sometimes you're afraid that you will be judged. So, and like you, because you are judged by your peers or you're judged by your teacher,
Mhm.
and that like when I failed in English, I sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, I failed, and I started blaming myself. Oh, you had so much time last year. You could spend this time on learning language and mastering it. Oh, you had so long vacations. You would like even better for you would be, focus on every time I change this narrative, like, no, it's okay. It's never late. As all like it happens, I'm mastering it. I know I can change it. And I mean, just go on. But it's really important to switch to positive thinking, because there are too many
Yes.
negative things around us. So, and then
Yeah.
it doesn't help. It doesn't help. Blaming doesn't help you at all.
100%. If for some reason it did help, maybe we could have a different argument, but it doesn't. It kills confidence from a cognitive perspective. It kills like learning and retention. But I think that's very interesting to be self aware enough to catch the red flag, because you were able to then backtrack of like, why do I shame myself? Why do I feel this? Like, oh, well, that makes sense. You grew up having punishment with failure. So to be able to like digest that and think, do I need this for my next chapter? And choosing, very actively choosing, okay, I don't want to keep punishing myself. I'm going to switch. Every time I think that way, actively, because a lot of times we know what we want to improve, but there's no actionable moment. And so for you, like
Yeah.
catching it, saying this is not what I want to think, and then replacing it with a more positive thought, I think is wonderful. And for me, the biggest red flag for myself as well, but from a language perspective, when you think should, the word should is the red flag. Like, oh, I should have studied more last year. Oh, I should be more fluent. As soon as you hear should, stop and think, no, what can I do right now?
Yeah.
And then do it. It's kind of like, oh, I'll go to the gym next week. It's like, no, just go right now. Like kind of taking away the pressure.
Yeah, I think in gaining new skills is always about switching your typical way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Once you change your habits, everything will change. And a good thing for a non-native speaker, that you can build your new identity in the English language, or like any new language. I recently heard this, and it's true, because for example, I've been living for 36 years, getting mental programs,
Mm-hmm.
traumas in Russian language, but I never got that in English. So this is something
Mm-hmm.
different. So I can build a new identity. Like, okay, how do I want to be in English? How do I want to look? How do I want to sound? Like confident,
Mm-hmm.
funny, calm, and maybe I can change it, like polite. This is really helps to switch yourself, like, okay, this is Alina in Russian, but Alina in English can be a little bit different. And I like this way of thinking. It helps me, and actually it motivates me. It's like, okay, this identity, because we even don't sound the same in English. I mean, especially because it's the melody is different. You like your tone is different, because in English you should speak politely. Like Russian don't
Mm,
speak like that.
I know what
They
you mean.
speak
Yeah.
like very very direct, like tun tun tun. And in English you change, especially if you are inside the country. You have to do
Mm-hmm.
that if you want to be part of this society, and you change your habits, and you change the way of your thinking, and then you change your behavior, and they like it.
I know what you and you know what? I think that that's fascinating in that as a non-native speaker, having that mindfulness and having those moments of choice, it's a really great opportunity for growth that maybe sometimes as a native speaker, we don't pause enough to mindfully think, who do I want to be in this chapter of my life? How do I want to present myself in this role, whether it's as something at home, as a parent, or as a leader of a company. And so by making those conscious choices, I think it's such a great way to be introspective. Like, do I want to be more polite, more direct? How do I want to, for in your case, like build community? How can I be more trustworthy? And I think those moments of then finding what language do I need? What expressions do I need is so empowering.